So, there was this nonprofit in Minnesota called Feeding Our Future. Great name, noble mission, feed kids during a pandemic. And for a while, everyone thought Aimee Bock was doing exactly that. The government kept sending checks. Aimee kept filing reports showing thousands of meals served every single day. Except none of it was real. The meals were fake. The sites were fake. The invoices were fake. $250 million gone. Luxury cars, real estate, trips overseas. It took the feds years to untangle it, but when they did, 78 people went down. And Aimee? She just got 41 years. Her name is Aimee Bock. She ran a nonprofit called Feeding Our Future out of Minnesota. Started it years before anyone had heard the word coronavirus. The organization was a sponsor for the USDA's federal child nutrition programs. These programs exist to make sure kids from low-income families get fed during the summer, after school, on weekends. The way it works is simple. The government sends money to sponsors. Sponsors distribute it to local feeding sites. The sites serve meals to children and file reimbursement claims. And for the most part, that system works fine. Then COVID hit in 2020. Schools shut down across the country. Millions of kids who relied on school lunch programs suddenly had no guaranteed meals, so the federal government loosened the rules. Made it easier to get funding. Reduced the paperwork, all in the name of getting food to children as fast as possible during a crisis. During a crisis. Good intention. Necessary, even. But that loosening of rules created a gap so wide you could drive a fleet of luxury SUVs through it. Which is exactly what Aimee and her associates did. Aimee turned Feeding Our Future into a machine for claiming federal meal reimbursements. She brought on dozens of new feeding sites across Minnesota. On paper, these sites were serving thousands of meals a day to children in need. Community centers, restaurants, storefronts, all supposedly dishing out food to hungry kids. The paperwork looked legitimate. The meal counts were enormous, and the USDA money kept flowing in. But a huge number of those sites were serving little to no food at all. Some of the locations existed on paper but barely operated in reality. Others inflated their meal counts by insane margins. Sites that might serve 50 meals on a good day were reporting 5,000. Aimee knew the pandemic rules had stripped away most of the verification requirements. She knew nobody was showing up to count trays, and she exploited it completely. Now, the scale of the daily lying here is worth thinking about. Every single reimbursement claim required a count of meals served. A number someone had to write down, sign off on, and submit to the federal government. And across dozens of sites, people were writing down numbers that had no relationship to reality whatsoever. 5,000 meals at a site that didn't have a working kitchen. 3,000 meals at a location that neighbors said was empty most days. It was fiction, submitted as paperwork, backed by invoices that were also fiction, layers of fake on top of fake. The money that was supposed to feed children went somewhere else entirely. Properties in Minnesota and out of state. Luxury vehicles. International travel, personal bank accounts across the country and overseas. The people running the fake sites were taking their cut. Aimee was taking hers. And the whole thing just kept growing because the checks kept coming, and nobody was looking too hard at where the food was going, or whether there was any food at all. The Minnesota Department of Education did start asking questions eventually. They flagged some of the numbers, tried to pause payments to Feeding Our Future. She sued them. She took the state to court and argued that they were discriminating against the communities her sites served. The state backed off. Payments resumed. I guess the lesson is that if someone accuses you of racism loud enough, you stop auditing their expense reports, even when the expense reports are entirely made up. By the time the FBI got involved, the fraud had grown into something enormous. Federal investigators started pulling records, visiting sites, interviewing the people who were supposed to be running these meal programs, and what they found was a house of cards held together with fake invoices. One site claimed to be serving thousands of meals a day out of a small residential property. Another site's meal count would have required feeding every child in the zip code, twice. Investigators found sites where the supposed meal service location didn't even have a kitchen. I mean, if you're going to fake a food program, at least pick a building with a stove. And at some of these locations, the food that was purchased for show was just thrown away. Dumpsters full of meals behind sites that never opened their doors. Federal money converted to groceries, converted to garbage, while actual hungry kids got nothing. The federal investigation expanded fast. The FBI, the IRS, and the USDA Office of Inspector General all got involved. They traced bank records, property purchases, wire transfers, and travel records. The money trail led to dozens of people connected to Feeding Our Future. Real estate bought with federal nutrition dollars. Cars purchased with funds earmarked for children's meals. International wire transfers to accounts overseas. all of it traced back to reimbursements from the child nutrition program, and the network was huge. This was not a couple of people skimming off the top. This was a coordinated operation with dozens of participants across multiple states. In September 2022, federal prosecutors brought charges. 70 people initially. That number eventually grew to 78. The largest pandemic fraud case in United States history. And Aimee Bock was named as the central figure. The person who recruited the fake sites, coached them on what numbers to report, processed their claims through Feeding Our Future, and took her share off the top. If you've been watching this far and want more crime stories, hit subscribe. New ones drop regularly. Some defendants cooperated with prosecutors, some pleaded guilty, some fought the charges and lost. The convictions piled up over the next couple of years. More than 60 people were convicted in total. And through all of it, Aimee maintained she was innocent. She said she believed the sites were legitimate. She said she trusted the people she brought on. She basically told anyone who would listen that she was just trying to feed kids. Aimee's own trial finally came. And during the proceedings, prosecutors laid out the full scope of what she had built. They showed the fake invoices, the inflated meal counts, the money trail leading to luxury purchases that had nothing to do with child nutrition. They showed communications where Aimee coached site operators on how to fill out their paperwork to maximize reimbursements. She wasn't just signing off on fake numbers. She was teaching people how to generate them. And then she made it worse. During the trial itself, Aimee committed perjury. She lied under oath. While being tried for fraud, she committed another crime right there in the courtroom. You get the point. This is not someone who stumbled into a misunderstanding about paperwork. This is someone who lied at every single stage of the process, including the stage where the entire justice system was staring directly at her face. The jury convicted her, and on May 21, 2026, Judge Nancy Brazel handed down the sentence in a Minneapolis federal courtroom. 500 months. That's 41 years and 8 months in federal prison. Aimee was ordered to pay $242 million in restitution. The judge called the fraud scheme a vortex of fraud and called Aimee the epicenter of the whole thing. And Aimee cried. She stood in front of the judge, sobbing, and said, "I never meant to cause any harm." If you ask me, those words are doing a lot of heavy lifting when you're standing in a federal courtroom after being convicted of stealing $250 million that was supposed to feed hungry children during a pandemic. Judge Brazel wasn't moved. She told the courtroom she saw the opposite of remorse from Aimee throughout the proceedings. The perjury didn't help. You don't get to lie under oath during your own fraud trial and then ask the judge for mercy. That's not how any of this works. And the thing about the restitution order is that $242 million is a number Aimee will never actually pay back. She doesn't have it. Nobody in this case has it. Most of the money is gone, spent, wired through property and cars that have already depreciated. The restitution is on paper. The children who were supposed to eat are still in the same neighborhoods, still going to the same underfunded programs. The money is just gone. I keep coming back to the scale. $250 million, 78 people charged, more than 60 convicted, all of it built on fake meal counts for kids who never got fed. Every dollar in that scheme was supposed to go to a child who needed lunch, and instead it went to somebody's car payment or a vacation overseas. The pandemic loosened the rules because children were going hungry, and Aimee looked at that crisis and saw a business opportunity. Aimee had retired from Feeding Our Future before the full weight of accountability came down. She stepped away from the organization, which tells you she probably saw the walls closing in. But retirement didn't save her. The feds don't stop investigating because you update your employment status. And the sentence sends a message. 41 years. Aimee is going to spend longer in prison than many of the children she was supposed to feed have been alive. She turned a child nutrition program into a personal ATM and ran it for years while the government sent her check after check after check. 500 months is the system saying it is not playing around with pandemic fraud. Not anymore. 78 people charged. More than 60 convicted. $250 million stolen from kids who needed meals during the worst public health crisis in a century. And the woman at the center of it all just got told she'll be in prison until she's in her 80s. If you want more stories like this, they're on the channel.